Anaya Lee, I heard you been friggin' round, bud, and today I gotta talk about the little bit of a situation that the singer from Zulu is finding himself in today because there are more allegations hitting the internet. And you know I cover the DIY hardcore punk rock scene on this channel, so covering allegations is kind of something I do on a weekly basis over here, and I never thought in a million years that the singer from Zulu, Anaya Lee, would ever be in a video like this. He just comes across like such a wholesome, colorful, charismatic, fun to be around person, but today these allegations are seemingly pretty dark. And in order to get all the context, I am going to read every single word of the statement that came out against this guy. But before I do, hey, hi, hello, my name is Dan Frampton, and welcome to the Clubhouse. Likes and subs, let's go. If you comment within the first 3 hours, I will reply, and that's just a Frampton guarantee. Now for just a little bit of context before we get to the statement. Zulu is a hardcore band in the scene right now that kind of popped off just after the pandemic type era. Anaya Lee, the singer, was the drummer in a band called Dare before this, and he was also a regular, a frequenter of the shows in LA. This guy was a mosh all-star. He was making connections and running circles in the hardcore scene very successfully, I might add, with a ton of style. He always came across like such an advocate, and today these allegations we're going to go through make him seem like anything but before we dive into these allegations, it is important to know that they are just allegations right now, as damning as they may seem. People are all over Zulu's Instagram right now demanding a response, but a comment has not been made by Anaya or the band. And they have just been announced to be part of the newest Warped Tour lineup. Yes, a band with allegations and the Warped Tour are finally back together yet again. So no more beating around the bush. Allegations, roll it. Trigger warning, abuse. Statement on physical, emotional, psychological abuse by Anaya Rashid Muhammad, professionally known Zulu, at Black Power Violence / Illy Hello Kitty XOXO. I am choosing to make my own experiences and this information publicly known now for the sake of my mental and emotional health, to liberate myself from the pain and burden of suffering in silence, to warn others, and hopefully to enact some kind of change surrounding this man. Everything detailed here is of my own experience, except for when otherwise noted, revealed to me by trusted sources who have been victims of this man, witness to his abuse, or both. I know these accounts to be veritably true, and I do not intend to speak for or over anyone else, and their identities will continue to remain private at this time. I am echoing a few sentiments as well regarding justice and accountability from a friend whose healing journey has been incredibly helpful in being able to identify and process my own experiences, and their openness in their own situation has been able to provide others with support and closure. Since moving in with Anaya a year ago, the nature of our relationship quickly transformed and mutated into a violent one, starting as punching and kicking under the guise of roughhousing that would leave entire sides of my body battered and bruised and difficult to move, which set the stage for continued grooming to see what I was able to tolerate. In April of last year, we had an encounter that was initially consensual, which resulted in me being so traumatized I was gaslit by him into thinking I was on my period until I was able to visit a healthcare provider after the subsequent encounter, where he choked me so hard it left a big bruise near my neck down to part of my collarbone, and I knew after showing it to someone I needed to seek help. I communicated with a few friends about this, asking what to do, if this was weird, and I spent some time in denial about how dangerous this situation actually was. I did all the things he wanted to do. I hung out where he liked and with his friends, and he could control the people I was around. Knowing something was deeply wrong, I began sharing my experiences and feelings with people who may know of someone else harmed by Anaya, and I uncovered an extensive, horrifying pattern of abuse that I was the latest victim in. Some of their abuse took place also in the same space we were living in together. Other victims, including but not limited to other musicians or sisters from the mosque he attends. Anaya built a persona for himself, charismatic, friendly, respectful, principled, which make him very trustworthy to an outsider's perspective. But women and femmes who he had used this performance to pursue and coerce/pressure them into sex with them know him as the opposite. When describing how they were feeling after these situations occurred, their feelings ranged from blindsided, uncomfortable, confused, violated, to being triggered to mental instability from their interactions. His personality, like a switch, changed when he didn't get what he wanted. He previously punched holes around the apartment, drove recklessly with me in the car, has threatened to harm himself, and on occasion with his weapon to others and myself. While I am aware of the issues he platforms and the ways he presents himself as a charming, sensitive, and intuitive, it does not shock me that only people who have been involved with him intimately know about or are even aware of this side. After a few weeks passed, I was in a room discussing to a friend who had come to visit me there. Over a long call that had transpired since the last time I saw her, Anaya recorded that part of the conversation through our bedroom walls and has been using that clip to justify all the harm he has put me through. He sent it to the person I was discussing, who he previously warned me was going to hurt me, and she said she was coming over right then and there to do just that, and he opened our front door to allow her to do it. She came over with her family members and kicked my bedroom door in while I was naked in bed and on the phone with my friend. She pushed me and demanded I stand up and fight her then and there, while her family stood in the doorway recording this on their iPhone, Anaya standing right beside them. She stood in my bed screaming over and over for about 10 minutes until the neighbors called the police and about 14 cars, marked and unmarked, arrived to the residence. We all declined to talk to the police, and she left with the recording of me and my friend I was on the phone with while this was occurring, rescued me shortly after, and allowed me to stay at his place for the next few days despite recovering from COVID, while I could figure out our next move. We all moved out that month, and this event displaced our black female roommate, who has been isolated throughout this, for standing up to him and supporting me. Later on the same day, his bandmate called me and his other victim from the mosque, feigning sincerity and care, but was instructed to record both of our conversations with him and was asking us questions about the nature of our relationship with Anaya and what had occurred, and was sending them to other people, which we now know is in case anything like this, they have an alibi. We told him to leave us alone, not to record us, and blocked him. He proceeded to go on a rant slandering both us and calling us liars and saying we were trying to destroy what he worked so hard for, when none of this was ever about Zulu until they made it so, railroading all of the abuse and misconduct taking place and creating a narrative for us as jilted lovers instead of people who were deeply and repeatedly traumatized by Anaya. Harassment persisted for months. I was being stopped outside by people he knows asking if I'm still okay with them. I have been harassed for months through social media and telephonically up until the fires this year, where someone he knew also from the mosque who helped him move out of our old apartment identified himself to text me and call me an N-word. Anaya has shut down or cut off anyone who has attempted to bring this up to him. My friend who was playing in his band while all this was happening, who chose to support me, was fired and replaced without notice and told he made Anaya feel uncomfortable after being repeatedly asked how I feel about him continuing to perform with him. Shortly after the event where I was assaulted in my bedroom, I sought out mediation despite not being physically able to stomach being in his presence, and the mediator informed me that Anaya said he would be taking self-accountability, which is veritably untrue. The mediator said that Anaya asked if I would stop talking about this. This was never mediated. Anaya has employed many isolation tactics to discourage me from being this public until now, attempting to preserve his image and ensure I was unheard and he was effectively somehow the victim. I want to name here now that Anaya is not safe. He parrots language of revolution and community without actually ever personifying these things, and is incredibly skilled in manipulation. His refusal to acknowledge exactly what harm he has done, to understand and apologizing and explaining what actions you're going to take to those around around you to not cause this kind of harm again makes him, at the very least, extremely toxic and very dangerous, especially to black women. With a platform with such messaging as being pro-black, pro-liberation, anti-establishment, this community deserves restorative justice. After changing addresses, phone numbers, and choosing not to visit spaces this man frequents to avoid any interaction, I finally feel safe enough to share this much. This does not cover the full scope of all experiences and detail all the grooming, manipulation, and coercion that took place over the past 2 years. I still very much feel unsafe in certain places in LA, including religious settings, out of fear of running into him or any of these people who I know are enabling his behavior again. The impact of fleeing this situation has been utterly debilitating and affects me day to day, every single day. I have asked privately, but I will now ask publicly not to support or collaborate with Anaya or any one of his various projects until he takes accountability for his actions. I ask that you do not engage in any victim blaming. Anaya has and will continue to attempt to deflect blame and portray himself as a victim, and I ask that you focus on the impact of his actions and the impact and the ripple effects of the harm he has caused myself and others. By the way of coercion, essay, displacement, invasion of privacy, gaslighting, harassment, firing, triangulation, isolation, and manipulation. The immeasurable amount of emotional labor it takes to recount and share this openly due to its sensitive nature, and the retaliation and harassment I have already faced multiple times from Anaya and friends from attempting to speak out about this cannot be overstated. Sharing all this has been incredibly scary. I ask for your love, support, and grace. At this time, I would like to thank friends and loved ones near and afar, old and new, who have held space for me, helped me, housed me, fed me, cared for me during panic attacks, and made sacrifices in their personal and professional lives to support me unequivocally through what seemed to be an endless nightmare, and have encouraged me to be open and honest as I continue navigating healing this deeply traumatic period, which may take many years. I am and will remain open to engaging in conversations with victims who have spoken out about him and others who may choose to come forward after reading this. You do not have to live in isolation, silence, or fear any longer. Let us continue to create safe spaces, keep them safe, and hold each other accountable. That's some pretty dark stuff in that statement over there, but we've yet to hear from Anaya himself. The details outlined in that statement seem rather verifiable though. The drummer did leave, and if that bedroom incident did happen, it is claimed to have been recorded on a phone somewhere, which is absolutely one of the most violent allegations that I've gone through on this channel. Imagine laying in your room as vulnerable as possible when someone busts through the door when you're in your warm, cozy, safe space. Now it turns that warm, cozy, safe space into a place of trauma. But in situations like this, you really do need to hear from both sides, because you know the truth is somewhere there in the middle. So Anaya Lee, any day now, bud. We're waiting. I've been a longtime fan of the band, and firing up the internet to see these allegations was a little bit disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. And everybody on their Instagram is asking them about it, but they either seem to be ignoring those comments or deleting other comments. I'm recording this on my phone because my actual camera broke, so hopefully the next upload is a little bit less scuffed, but that's where the Zulu Anaya Lee situation is right now. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, see you later, and have a good one.